So what you want, a latte, some ham on rye? I'm just trying to get in your bloodstream like E. coli. You so fly just like a pelican fly. I love this stuff. It's great. What are the humans doing?
Do you think you're ready? Can you handle the truth? Or are you in denial and demanding more proof? They demonstrate in real time how they're spinning you lies, but no one pays attention, no one opens their eyes. They walk around like zombies with their head in the mobiles, signaling their virtues with a pick on their profile, yeah. Signaling their virtues with a pick on their profile. So if you think you're ready, you don't need more proof. Conspiracy deniers are denying the truth. They fabricate our problems and pretend to provide the best solution, but we all know they lied. They lied about the weapons and they lied about health. They lied about the fact that they're transferring the wealth. You should really notice how they're pushing the fear. Keep everybody terrified and not thinking clear. Yeah. Everybody's not thinking clear. Keep everybody terrified. Yeah, not thinking. Keep everybody terrified and not thinking clear. When you do, you realize that this is a trick. It's getting really stupid now, they're taking the mick. Said, do you think you're ready? Can you handle the truth? Or are you in denial and demanding more proof? They demonstrate in real time how they're spinning you lies, but no one pays attention, no one opens their eyes. They walk around like zombies with their head in the mobiles, signaling their virtues with a pick on their profile, yeah. Signaling their pick on their profile. Hey.
Oh, Sasquatch? Oh, yeah, he's like the Sandy Waxler of YouTubes.
Next time he'll get his own ketchup.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Chilling with Sasquatch, where I have a bit of specialized information for the men folk in the building, both of us, which is me and M, I imagine. Everybody else left. Well, no, here's the thing. I uploaded a short today, and I did 2 live streams, one from Sam's channel and another one from mine, and I scheduled them all in a big pile, and so I probably didn't get a notification for 1 or 2 of them, would be my guess. This one being the one I would figure wouldn't get a notification if I had to guess. So I'm not really expecting a whole lot of turnout, but you're going to get one of the best shows I've done yet.
Crazy Matrix. It's everything a young man needs to know. Okay, so this is the universal hot crazy matrix. It's everything a young man needs to know about women. I've developed this on my own over 46 years of living on the earth. So this is how it works. You have your crazy axis and your hot axis. Hot is, as usual, measured from 0 to 10. We're all familiar with that.
Testing.
Crazy is measured from 4 to 10 because, of course, there's no such thing as a woman who's not at least a 4 crazy. So you got 4 to 10. This is your hot crazy line right here. Very important that you keep in mind where the hot crazy line is. As a rule, This is your no-go.
Every man here should be taking notes. I want y'all to get out a napkin wherever you're at, whatever you're doing. You get out a napkin and you sketch out this hot, crazy matrix to save your life. Hey, Kat, welcome in. By the way, M's Mad World gets the gold. John Denicola gets the silver. And C4T, that's Kat, gets the bronze. Welcome in, everybody. We're still looking for our participation trophy.
Zone. We do not hang around and date and marry women who are not, at least in our mind, a 5. So this is your no-go zone. You don't go here. We just rule this out. Life is better this way. That's the way it is. All right. Above a 5 and to about an 8 and below the crazy line, this is your fun zone. You can hang out here and meet these girls and spend time with them. That's your fun zone. But keep in mind, when you're in the fun zone, you want to move out of the fun zone to a more permanent location. Okay. So that's the fun zone above a 5, hot, below an 8, hot, and below the crazy line. This means these are most of the time not crazy. Okay. Above the danger zone, above the crazy line, we have the danger zone. This is your redheads, your strippers, anyone named Tiffany. This is hairdressers. This is where your car gets keyed. You get a bunny in the pot. Your tires get slashed, and you wind up in jail. Now that we have some of the chart filled in, we got a couple more pieces.
I want to point out, he did not say or wind up in jail, but these things happen and you wind up in jail, in addition to the other wacky shit that happens when you got a Tiffany or a Brittany or a Celeste around.
To put in, but at this point, understand something. This is not a static environment. This is a situation where you have got to use this matrix over time to develop some reliable data. It's like a dope chart, okay? Because at any moment in time, any woman that you have previously located on this chart can vanish from that location and appear anywhere else on the chart. So what you have to do is over time, collect some data. And once you have a cluster of data points, you can begin to consider that reliable. Now, moving on, you have...
I'm telling you, boys, take notes.
This is below the crazy line, above an 8 hot, but still, about a 7 crazy. This is your date zone. You can stay in the date zone indefinitely. These are women that you introduce to your friends and your family. They're good looking and they're reasonably not crazy most of the time. Okay. So you can stay here indefinitely. Now, above an 8 hot and between about a 7 and a 5 crazy, this is your wife zone.
Right. I wifed her the second I met.
Okay. When you meet this girl, you should consider a long-term relationship. This zone is not scaled to size. This is a representation and not an actual. This is not a pie chart showing you how many of these people are out there. This is simply
hey, strictly welcome in, everybody.
What you're after.
We have a non-mouse in the house. Cool, bro. Good to see you.
Above an 8 hot. That's your wife zone. Okay. Now, below a 5 crazy and above an 8 hot, this is your unicorn zone. These things don't exist. If you find a unicorn, please capture it safely, keep it alive. We'd like to study it and maybe look at how to replicate that. Okay. So I was explaining this to a guy one time and he said, wait a minute. I met this girl and she's like smoking hot. She's like at least a 9 and she's chill. She's totally cool. She's like not even a 3 crazy. I said, you're telling me you've met a girl, she's a 9 hot, and she's like a 2 or a 3 crazy. He said, yeah, man, I like her a lot. I said, you should be careful. That's a dude. You're talking to a tranny. So you got to be careful because down here below a 4 crazy and above an 8 hot, you're probably talking to a dude. That is the universal hot crazy matrix.
Boy, that was close. That almost played right back to back, didn't it? I'm surprised I'm actually still on YouTube. I figured they'd have booted me for that one. I was hoping for an early night. There's a barbecue blast in town. I was going to get me one of the barbecue sandwiches, a big old giant fluffy damn pig, big old pink pig carried around. Maybe one of them in a balloon shape. I don't know. It's a barbecue blast. What do? You walk around. Can't mac on chicks. I'm married and they all know it. All right, so we are going to open with the absolute GigaChad Theseus. How many of y'all know anything about Theseus? Now, I have two selections here. One from a smaller channel that I think needs a little bit of narrative help. I'm not sure whether they're doing the whole... What the fuck? Why would you do that? Why is there a chat bubble where I'm supposed to like actually post stuff? All right, well screw you. I use YouTube. I don't know why, but StreamYards has introduced this new chat bubble over here, and it doesn't go to the live chat. It goes to talking to some StreamYard folks over there. So now I can't use StreamYard to chat because there's a stupid bubble over the little line thing, and no amount of adjusting the window moves it off of it. Like it's on the arrow where you click it to make it go. But you know. Speaking Portuguese. Okay, so Greek history, Greek mythology, right? There were a double handful of people who were born of godly descent. These people were typically absolute bosses on the landscape. These are folks like Achilles, Hercules, Perseus, Theseus. These folks, and I'm sure you've seen the movies, the old stop motion, like Jason and the Argonauts. Jason and half his crew were descended from various gods. But yeah, that dude. So it's kind of interesting to me because he's a GigaChad, not a Sigma. See, here's the thing. He's not Alpha. I mean, he's not Sigma. He's Alpha. My man goes down because he was simping for a whore. This is what takes Theseus out. He falls to the foibles of the flesh, as so many of us do. A story to tell.
It could be seen, many mythological stories revolve around Athens.
You hear this
Just
voice?
as now, Athens played a huge role in ancient Greek myths.
And this is a pretty thorough
I talk
coverage
about
of
a
it.
king and the greatest hero of Athens. Once, there lived a great king called Aegeus. He brought great prosperity.
All right, so your typical Chad. He's that guy you knew in high school that was on, captain of the football team, played varsity baseball when he was in middle school, got all the cheerleaders while he was going through high school. What's up, Curious Squirrel? Good to see you, bud. Whereas, that would be like the alpha Chad type. Popular, has a cool car, cool glasses, nice hair, good skin, typically of the either swarthy and muscular type or the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Aryan type, one or the other, typically. But then your Sigma, that's a whole nother ballgame. Your Sigma's just bypass women, period. That whole question. The song 99 Problems But a Bitch Ain't One is a very Sigma song.
To the land and made Athens a great.
The Giga aspect comes from the fact that, like Hercules, he often beat people down with the jawbone of an ass. He'd just reach over and pick up a piece of the landscape, fuck you up with it. Like royal, like godly, pimp your ass out because he decided to on a Tuesday.
Great kingdom. But regardless of his success as a king, Aegeus failed to sire an heir that could rule the great kingdom of Athens. So the troubled king consulted the oracle of Delphi. She prophesied, "Do not loosen the bulging mouth of the wineskin until you have reached the height of Athens, lest you die of grief." Aegeus did not understand this prophecy, so he consulted the matter with Theseus, the wise king of Trojan. Theseus immediately understood the prophecy of the oracle. So he got Aegeus drunk and gave him his daughter, the princess Aethra, to spend the night with. That night,
You home yet,
Athena
Aethra?
visited Aethra in her dreams. Athena instructed her to make an offering to the gods at the beach, so the god would bless the child. The offering was heard by the sea god Poseidon, and Aethra got possessed by him. So the child inherited traces from both the sea god and King Aegeus. On knowing the news of Aethra got pregnant with his son, Aegeus told her to stay in Trojan and keep the identity of the child's father a secret. He then buried his sandals and sword under a huge rock, and told Aethra that when their son is strong enough to retrieve the sandals and sword buried under the rock by himself, he could come to Athens and claim his birthright. Aegeus then left to Athens and married Medea, who is the daughter of King Aetes of Colchis.
I just had a thought. You know, if modern Hollywood made this story, he'd be a transgender Eskimo, and he'd probably have a pig or something accidentally knock the rock over to get the sword and shield out from under it, right? Hey, Toe for Life, welcome in, bud. Good to see you. Strictly Strange, good to see you too. Ajot, M's Mad World, John Denicola. There was somebody else. Curious Squirrel. Yeah, all these people.
Aethra gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, and she named him Theseus. Theseus grew up with his mother and never knew who his father was as he grew up. When Theseus was old enough and strong enough, Aethra asked him to lift the rock and retrieve the buried sandals and sword. Once he did, she revealed the true identity of his father and his quest to claim his birth.
Yeah, I'm gonna point this out. I always thought it was a sword to shield, not sandals and sword, but cultural maybe. I don't know. I wonder if the sandals actually matter.
Birthright. Theseus decided to go to Athens. There were two routes to get to Athens from Trojan. The safest route was to go by sea. The journey by land is a much dangerous one, since he has to cross the Saronic Gulf, where he would encounter a string of 6 entrances to the underworld, each guarded by a spirit of the underworld. Because Theseus was brave and wanted to prove himself to his father, Theseus took the land route. Of the many enemies he met on his way to Athens, 6 of his heroic labors are well known among Greeks. Theseus encountered Periphetes, who was a club bearer. Periphetes was lame in one leg and had one eye. He is feared by trespassers since he robbed anyone whom he encountered and killed them with his bronze club. When Theseus came face to face with him, he tricked Periphetes by asking him to hand over his bronze club to inspect if it really is made out of bronze. Periphetes fell for his trick and handed the club to Theseus. As soon as he got a hold of it, Theseus bashed Periphetes in the head and killed him. Next he met the robber Cines.
All right. So here's a common theme you're going to see when dealing with Theseus throughout his entire story. Do you remember in Maverick, this most recent Top Gun movie, Maverick, there was that one blonde dude that was just, you just wanted to hate him, but damn, he was just that damn good. That dude, that's a Theseus archetype. This man doesn't show up and beat you at the game he's best at. He shows up and beats you at the game you're best at. When he meets the giant, he cracks the giant in the skull just like he's been doing people. That's how he's been robbing folks. So he hits the giant in the skull.
who is often called Pitchocamptes, which translates to he who bends pine trees. After robbing the travelers he met, he tied them to pine trees, that he bent down to the ground, then let the trees go, tearing them apart. When he tried to do the same to Theseus, he outwitted him and tied him in the same way he does to his victims, and killed him in the same way he killed the travelers he robbed. Theseus then seduced Cinne's prettiest daughter Perigune, and fathered Melanippus. Then Theseus came across the giant pig, the Crommyonian sow. The pig destroyed the lands around Crommyon, killing every human it met with its mighty power. Not much is mentioned about the fight.
All right, so that's one weird thing. Both Hercules and Theseus, and I think Perseus too, all fought some massive mythic boar. We have nothing, not a single shred of literature from those combats with the great boar. I think the most we get out of any of them is one of the stories of Hercules and how he fought him for what, like 2 days or something. But it never says anything about what he do or, you know, none of that. My freaking ears itching like crazy. I've had these things on for 2 hours already. Woe is me with the life of a streamer.
Fight between Theseus and the pig. So it could be assumed that Theseus easily won the battle. Near Megara, Theseus met the robber Siren. He not only robbed the travelers, but also forced them to wash his feet at a very steep and dangerous cliff. While they knelt, he kicked them off the cliff behind them to be devoured by a giant turtle. Theseus pushed him in the same way he did to his victims, and Siren got devoured by the turtle. The next who was defeated by Theseus is the notorious King Cercyon, the king of Eleusis. He was said to be a very strong man, and was not only cruel to the travelers, but was to his own daughter as well. He challenged and forced the passers-by to a wrestling match, and then beat them to death. But when he challenged Theseus, Cercyon met his end in his own wrestling ring. After defeating King Cercyon, Theseus encountered Procrustes the Stretcher. Procrustes was a blacksmith. He crafted 2 iron beds, and forced every passerby to spend the night in one of the beds he offers them. He then made them fit into it, either by stretching them or by cutting off their feet. Procrustes continued his reign of terror until he was captured by Theseus. He fitted Procrustes to one of his own beds by stretching and cutting off his feet. By successfully completing all...
I mean, that's what makes him a GigaChad. He doesn't show up and sucker you. He doesn't hide under a sheep. He doesn't poke your eye out. He doesn't outsmart you. He shows up, looks at what you're doing to folks, and then does that to you. That is archetypically an absolute archetype of GigaChattery. I just invented a word, y'all. How you like it?
All the obstacles he met on his way, Theseus finally made it to Athens. Theseus hid his identity and received Aegeus' hospitality. But Medea, who is Aegeus' consort, recognized him immediately as Aegeus' son. She feared Theseus would be chosen as heir to Aegeus' kingdom instead of her son Medus. So Medea asked Theseus to capture the Marathonian bull, an emblem of Cretan power. To Medea's disappointment, Theseus completed the task and returned to Athens. So she made Aegeus suspicious of Theseus. She even made the king to agree to poison Theseus. So the king and Medea invited Theseus for a feast, in honor of Theseus' return after successfully capturing the Marathonian bull. Theseus knew about Medea's plot, and as they tossed, Theseus raised his arm high enough so Aegeus sees his sword. Aegeus recognized the sword and saw the sandals. Just as Theseus neared the cup to his lips, Aegeus knocked the poisoned wine cup from Theseus's hands. So the father and the son finally reunited, and as for the legend, Medea fled to Asia. Medea is not the only one who was disappointed of Theseus' return. Pallantides, who was the youngest brother of Aegeus, is another person who waited to take the throne after Aegeus. He also wanted to get rid of Theseus. Pallantides plotted to kill both Theseus and Aegeus in an ambush. Theseus knew of the plan and killed every soldier Pallantides has gathered. After being the official heir of the kingdom, Theseus resolved many conflicts Aegeus was facing. One of it was the wrath of King Minos of Crete. Aegeus was in an agreement with King Minos to send 7 young men and 7 young women to Crete, at the end of every 9 years, as a peace offering for Pallantides assassinating his eldest son Androgeus. King Minos then released this group of Athenians to the Labyrinth of
Maybe. I mean, the Greek teach it as history. We call it Greek mythology. But did these people actually exist? Yeah. Did they kill giant boars? Perhaps. They were around back then. I mean, back then they had aurochs, which is basically a giant cow. It's like a dire cow, like, you know, a dire wolf. Aurochs are crazy.
Minotaur, a half-man, half-bull monster, to be devoured by him. Theseus volunteered to take part in this group. He set off with a black sail, promising to return with a white sail if he wins. Ariadne, King Minos' daughter, fell in love with Theseus. She gave him a ball of thread to use, so he could find his way back out of the labyrinth. At night, Theseus went into the labyrinth while tying one end of the sting to.
Now, I might be wrong here, but the way I remember that story going is she fell in love with Theseus but didn't know what to do about it, so she went to the oracle. The oracle told her to give Theseus a ball of twine to ensure her happiness. And so she goes home, she gives Theseus the ball of twine. Theseus does the Minotaur thing, and that ball of twine was the only reason he was able to find his way back out. Although in other stories, he cuts his ankle and leaves bloody footprints all the way in so that he can follow his own trail back out, which is also pretty clever if you think about it.
To the door. He managed to get to the center and found the sleeping Minotaur. As Theseus reached him, the beast woke up and the two ended in a vicious fight. Theseus stabbed the beast in the throat and killed Minotaur. After killing Minotaur, Theseus returned to Athens with his troops, Ariadne and her sister Phaedra. On their way, they passed Naxos and.
Well, both methods impart the concept of a sacrifice for a later gratification. In one case, he sacrifices the twine so that he could find his way out later. In the other case, he sacrifices a literal blood sacrifice, right, for a future ability to find his way out. So in both cases, it's a current sacrifice for delayed gratification. You know, like working out.
And Dionysus fell in love with Ariadne's beauty. He appeared to Theseus in a dream as they sailed, saying that he had chosen Ariadne as his wife, and demanded to leave her on Naxos. So he abandoned the sleeping Ariadne at Naxos. In other versions of the story, Theseus never had feelings for Ariadne, and used her to escape from her father. So he intentionally abandoned her at the Naxos, and Dionysus found the weeping Ariadne. Anyway, the action left Theseus devastated, and he forgot to change his sails to white, as he promised his father. So Aegeon believed Theseus was dead, and committed suicide, throwing himself off a cliff into the sea. The sea was then named after him as the Aegean Sea. Theseus continued to live an adventurous life, and so there are a considerable amount of stories tied with Theseus. After being king, Theseus befriended Pirithous, the king of the Lapiths. Together they won many adventures. Pirithous was a son of Zeus, and Theseus a son of Poseidon. So they decided to marry daughters of Zeus. Theseus chose Helen. The two friends kidnapped her and kept her until she was old enough to marry Theseus. Pirithous, on the other hand, chose Persephone, who was married to Hades. So the two journeyed to the underworld to abduct her. They searched through Tartarus.
All right, so this is the only reason, one of the two reasons I included this was for the Ariadne part, information, and this bit. So Theseus and his homie get together and they go have all kinds of adventures, but after whooping ass all over the Mediterranean, it ain't enough. So they decide to go diddy-bopping down into Hades territory. And that tends to piss the god of the dead off. And he's not really the god of the dead. He's the god of the underworld, but he does overlook most of the dead. So ipso facto, god of the dead. God of chaos, really. Disorder and horror. And so this next tidbit here shows you the difference between some random Sigma dude and a GigaChad, like an absolute Chad. Because my man, even in the depths of hell, he hits on a chick.
For Persephone for ages, and finally grew tired. When they sat on a rock to rest, they felt their limbs getting stiffened and becoming fixed to the rock. For many months the two heroes mourned for each other for the unfortunate end they met. Hercules saw the two heroes as he entered the underworld to complete his 12th task. He managed to free Theseus. When he tried to rescue Pirithous, the earth shook and Persephone and Hades appeared before them. Hercules persuaded Persephone to forgive Theseus, since he only aided Pirithous. So Persephone permitted Hercules take Theseus back to the human world, but Pirithous was trapped for eternity. When he got to the surface, Theseus found out that Minotaur has become the ruler of Athens. Also Helen was rescued by Dioscuri and was taken to Sparta, along with his mother Aethra. Devastated, he fled to Dolopians to seek refuge from King Lycomedes. But Lycomedes was a supporter of Minotaur. He threw Theseus off a cliff, and so the great hero met his end. Even though Theseus gained so much, he lost it all because of his desire to conquer women. But without a doubt, Theseus is one of the greatest heroes in Greek mythology. What do you think of this story? Comment down below your thoughts and anything I might.
All right. So we can agree, based off the information that was given in that particular video, that Theseus is a bad bitch. Like, he shows up, whoops down giants on a Tuesday. He's over here beating up giant boars on a Wednesday. He's over there jumping cows and aurochs on a Thursday. And by Friday, he's down in the depths of hell just hanging with his homies. That's pretty Chad, right? I don't know. But if you don't buy it, check this one out. This is specifically the story of the Minotaur and the maze, right? And this one, this is a channel I've actually dipped into a few times, Mythology Unleashed. And if you're not subscribed to, if you like this kind of stuff with like mythology and whatnot, explained in a very matter-of-fact, plain sort of way. I mean, he covers details too. The thing is he's more specific, so he does a shorter video about this bit, whereas the other chick used electronic voice. This guy's a better voice. I like this one better.
Throughout time, people across the world told each other tales of how they came to be, of heroes and monsters, romance and tragedy, death and rebirth. Mythology helped shape the ancient world, explaining the unexplainable. This is Mythology Unleashed.
That's what she said.
The island of Crete was ruled by the heavy-handed King Minos, a cold and unrelenting monarch who passed harsh immediate judgment akin to a god of Olympus. He was prideful, quick-witted, though these traits would in time create a monster. It was customary for Minos to annually sacrifice his finest bull to Poseidon, the the god of the sea. But one year, his herd produced a calf so perfect that Minos refused to kill it, instead sacrificing a lesser bull in its place. Enraged, Poseidon cast a spell over Minos' wife, Queen Pasiphae, making her fall madly in love with the bull. Desperate for the bull's affections, Pasiphae turned to the inventor Daedalus, and he constructed her a nigh-perfect cow costume. Pasiphae wore the costume in the bull's pasture, and before too long, she and the bull...
Are we in Mexico? I didn't know I
9
came
months
into
later,
Tijuana.
Pasiphae gave birth to a son with a calf's head. Because the creature was of royal birth, it could not be killed. Instead, Minos had Daedalus create the Labyrinth, a massive underground maze full of twisting caverns and passageways that stretched on seemingly without end. This became the creature's home and prison, and the creature became known as the Minotaur. The Minotaur grew into a massive, terrifying creature with a tall, muscular body and a bull's head adorned with long, sharp horns. Even more unnerving was its taste for human flesh, as it was fed criminals sentenced to death. To Minos, the Minotaur was the perfect weapon of power. Once a person had entered the labyrinth, death would soon follow. The Minotaur would easily overpower its victims, with its great strength and sharp horns, while those who managed to avoid these would ultimately starve to death. In the end, the Minotaur always got the bodies, feasting on the flesh and sucking the marrow from the bones. While the Minotaur prowled its maze of shadows, trouble was brewing on the mainland. King Minos' son, Androgeus, was killed in a drunken quarrel by Athenians. Angered by this, Minos declared war on Athens. In order to spare his people bloodshed, the Athenian king Aegeus begged for compromise. Minos made his demands.
For the death of my son, Athens shall send 7 youths and 7 maidens to be sacrificed to my beast. Fail to do so, and Crete will raise Athens to ruin.
Aegeus' hands were tied. He had no choice but to comply with Minos'
What's up,
wishes.
Joko? Welcome in, bud. Good to see
And so
you.
starting that very year, and every 9 years to follow, 7 youths and 7 maidens were sent to Crete to be killed and devoured by the Minotaur. A dark day for Athens, yet on that same day of the first sacrifices, Aegeus' heir was born. Months prior, Aegeus had married Aethra, the princess of Troezen, who had also laid with Poseidon. When Aethra discovered she was pregnant, not knowing if the child was Aegeus' or Poseidon's, Aegeus was forced to return to Athens and battle his 3 jealous brothers for the throne. But before leaving, Aegeus removed his sword and sandals and buried them underneath a great stone.
If our child is a boy, do not tell him who his father is until he can lift this stone. When that time comes, send him to Athens, for I shall need his help.
Aethra gave birth to a strong lad named Theseus. Trained in the ways of heroes by Hercules, Theseus vowed to follow in his footsteps and rid Greece of the monsters and injustice that plagued the land. When he was 18 years old, and nearly time for the third...
There's a difference. Almost all of the Greek heroes were trained by Chiron. Instead, Theseus is trained by Hercules, who is trained by Chiron.
sacrifice to be made, he was finally strong enough to move the stone. Aethra then told him of Aegeus, and an excited Theseus set off for Athens. Though Aethra begged him to take a ship, Theseus chose to take the land route to Athens, knowing full well of the many dangers that lay ahead. On his way to Athens, Theseus encountered many perils. First he battled the bandit Periphetes, the clubman, and defeated him by beating him to death with his own club. Next,
GigaChad.
trickster Sinus, who tried his victims to bend trees and watched them tear apart as the trees were released. Theseus again defeats the villain by using his own methods. He soon defeated the Crymonian Sow and the malefactor Scyron, feeding the latter to his pet sea monster. His next opponent was Krukion, who would defeat people in wrestling and kill them afterwards. Theseus gained the upper hand and slew him instead. And lastly, he battled the torturer Procrustes and soundly decapitated him with his own axe.
Okay, I'll accept a GigaChad. That'll
Theseus
work.
reached Athens. He presented himself to his father Aegeus. However, Aegeus had married a cruel witch who claimed she would aid him in defeating his jealous brothers. In an attempt to rid herself of Theseus, she sent him to face the Cretan bull to prove himself brave and virtuous. This was the same bull that had sired the Minotaur, and consequently the same bull that Hercules captured as part of his labors. After slaying the Cretan bull and driving off the witch, Aegeus recognized and accepted Theseus as his son, and together they faced down Aegeus's would-be usurpers. However, there would be no celebration, as the time had come for Athens to send its promised sacrifices to Crete to appease the hunger of the Minotaur. When Theseus learned of this, he volunteered to go as one of the sacrifices, and vowed to slay the Minotaur. Aegeus begged his son not to go, but Theseus was determined to free Athens from Crete's control. He promised his father that should he succeed, he would replace the black sail with a white one, so off Theseus went to Knossos with the other sacrifices. Upon arriving, Theseus and the Athenian youths were treated well, partaking in feast and games. All the while, Minos' daughter Ariadne had fallen deeply in love with Theseus. Unable to bear the thought of the fate that would await him, Ariadne promised to help Theseus defeat the Minotaur in return for taking her to Athens and becoming her husband. Upon agreement, she gave Theseus a short sword and a spool of thread from Daedalus. The next morning, Theseus and the other youths were hurried into the labyrinth, and the heavy metal doors closed shut behind them. Theseus drew his sword and tied the end of the thread to the entrance of the labyrinth, unraveling it slowly as he and his party made their way into the dark caverns. As they ventured further and further into the blackness of the labyrinth, the spool grew smaller, and the sounds of the Minotaur grew louder. In time, Theseus and the youths found the center of the labyrinth, where the Minotaur lay fast asleep. With a twitch of its nose, the creature caught the scent of prey and awoke with fury. Theseus called out to his companions.
"Stay together, Athenians. The beast is mine!"
The Athenian youths and maidens stared in awe and amazement as Theseus bravely fought the Minotaur. The earth seemed to shake as the combatants engaged one another. Before long, the Minotaur lay dead, and Theseus stood victorious. Theseus then took up the spool of thread and rewound it, leading him and the others out of the labyrinth. As they walked, Theseus realized the Minotaur was unlike the other perils he had faced. The villains along the road to Athens were evil beings who delighted in the suffering of others. The Minotaur, however, was a victim of fate, born out of one man's greed, one god's wrath, and one woman's lust, then thrust into a lonely prison where its beastly nature overtook whatever humanity it may have had, and subsequently turned into a weapon by a cruel tyrant. In slaying the Minotaur, he not only ended the suffering of Athens, but of the Minotaur itself. Having made their way back to the entrance of the labyrinth, the would-be victims made their way through the doors, unlocked by Ariadne, who stood but a little ways away. With no shortage of caution, Ariadne led the Athenians to the docks, where they commandeered a ship and quietly sailed away to Athens. On their journey, they stopped on the island of Naxos, where Theseus had a dream of Ariadne marrying Dionysus, the god of wine and merriment. Heartbroken, Theseus abandoned Ariadne while she slept. At that moment, Dionysus took pity upon the beautiful maiden and cursed Theseus with a bout of forgetfulness. As a result, Theseus had forgotten to change the ship's sail from black to white as he had promised. Aegeus, upon seeing the black-sailed ship, believed his son to be dead, and in grief, flung himself into the sea. In his memory, that part of the Mediterranean afterwards was called the Aegean Sea. Theseus would succeed his father as king of Athens and ruled prosperously for many years. He would later go on other adventures, aiding Perithous in a reckless scheme to abduct Persephone from the underworld, battling invading forces of Amazons, joining the Argonauts on their quest for the Golden Fleece, and joining the hunt for the Caledonian boar. But his most famous and celebrated adventurer was his conquest of the Minotaur and the liberation of his people from the clutches of Crete's tyranny.
That was much better, I think. Much more endurable. All right, so I'm sure it's what everybody's actually here to see is the actual decoding of the Hey Diddle Diddle rhyme, which I had heard about a couple of these shadowy realm of interpretations when I was younger. There was this one teacher of mine who had a book called like 1001 Facts You Didn't Know or something like that you didn't know you wanted to know. And in there was a sort of a breakdown of Hey Diddle Diddle as an astrology lexicon, basically teaching young kids the signs of the zodiac so they could tell dates and time and stuff and know what time of the year it was and whatnot. And it looks like my internet's fixing to kick the bucket over here. I may be dropping out here any second now. Hopefully this plays out.
Of nursery rhymes, where whimsy meets wonder. Hey Diddle Diddle, the cat and the fiddle, shrouds itself in an aura of mystic allure. This age-old verse, which on the surface appears to be a mere flight of fancy, conceals a myriad of hidden meanings and veiled origins. Behind the facade of a playful cat's frolic and the haunting notes of the violin, there exists a tantalizing mosaic of mysteries and concealed secrets. Brace yourselves, for within the cryptic folds of Hey Diddle Diddle, a tantalizing riddle beckons those daring enough to decipher its elusive symbolism. Welcome back, Darklings, to the Resurrectionists, where we breathe life into history, delve into ghostly realms, and explore everything that goes bump in the night. If you haven't joined our weird and wonderful family yet, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because trust us, you won't want to miss a single spine-chilling update. Hey Diddle Diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon, the little dog laughed to see such sport, and the dish ran away with the spoon. This strange nursery rhyme's origins is thought to trace back to at least the 16th century, and there are even references hinting at its existence in some form for over 1,000 years. In early medieval illuminated manuscripts, for example, the imagery of a cat playing a fiddle is very popular. The third line of the rhyme is where the British expression "over the moon" originated, meaning joyful elation, which only adds to the intrigue. Yet the precise beginnings of this rhyme continues to elude us, shrouded in a veil of captivating theories. On the surface it seems like nonsense, a mere playful rhyme with no apparent meaning. But what if, lurking beneath its whimsical facade, lies a hidden code? One tantalizing theory dares to suggest that it is far from nonsense. Instead, it conceals a secret map. Picture this, a humble farmer ploughing his fields, the weight of a bountiful harvest resting on his shoulders. For him, timing is everything. Planting the seeds too soon or too late can spell doom for the year's crops. But what if, hidden within a whimsical rhyme, lay the key to unlocking the mysteries of the night sky? Enter the theory, one that weaves together the fabric of farming and celestial wonders. It suggests that this peculiar rhyme is, in fact, a star chart. Each line corresponds to a constellation, like pieces of a celestial puzzle. The cat becomes Leo, the fiddle transforms into Lyra, the cow takes on the form of Taurus, the little dog is none other than Canis Minor, Apollo's bowl becomes the dish, and the spoon is the Big Dipper. But how does this rhyme aid our farmer in his quest for the perfect planting time? It's simple. Once a year, when all these celestial characters gather near the moon in the night sky, it's the telltale sign that the time has arrived to sow the seeds in the field. In an era where literacy was a luxury and books bestowed upon only a fortunate few, the precious treasury of skills, wisdom, and calendar dates all had to be memorized. Within this enchanting rhyme, we glimpse a potential masterpiece of memorization, reminiscent of the songs schoolchildren today commit to memory to remember important information, such as their ABCs or times tables. Hey Diddle Diddle, with its catchy rhythm and playful verses, could have been the perfect vessel for planting knowledge of the night sky deep within the mind of the farmers that needed it. This theory, while captivating,
Hello, Robin Bye.
is far
Welcome
from
in.
proven. It is a recent hypothesis into the rhyme's origins and demands further investigation to unravel its accuracy. But it is a fascinating idea, a testament to human ingenuity and the enduring magic of stories intertwined with the stars. When delving into the intriguing origins of nursery rhymes, a natural path of inquiry leads us to historical scandals and pivotal events, and we may find a clue in the word diddle, which is a curious choice of lyric. One meaning is to cheat or swindle someone so as to deprive them of something rightfully theirs. It is this
I might
sinister
cover that
word
on the show,
that leads
bud.
some to ponder
I
whether
was
the
looking at
origins
that
of
the
this
other day.
rhyme might be entwined with the tragic tale of a betrayed queen.
Not in relation to the Pied Piper, but in relation to something else. We'll get to that then. It's actually a cool story.
A sovereign whose world crumbled in a devastating whirlwind of heartbreak and shame. Within a dimly illuminated chamber, on a cold winter morning
Hello,
in the year
Izzy. Welcome
1518,
in.
an air of anxious anticipation enveloped Catherine of Aragon. She had reached the 8th month of her pregnancy, and so had embarked upon her lying in, a period of quiet withdrawal from the court, a retreat from the world itself. Behind the closed doors of the chamber, men dared not tread, for her private rooms were a sanctuary forbidden to them. In the hushed stillness, only women quietly ventured, serving her every need. Tapestries cloaked the windows, shielding the chamber from the outside world, their threads intricately woven to conjure a profound darkness that cast the room into a timeless twilight. Only a solitary window remained ajar, allowing a mere whisper of fresh air and faint light, lest the mother's eyes be afflicted by the blaze beyond. Crucifixes and sacred relics adorned.
Are y'all squatcheroos? Gotta dig it. I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty good. I sat there and said it in my head several times before somebody else brought it up. You're a Sasquatchian? A Sasquatchalachin? She called you what? Squatchkins yesterday? What was it you called them earlier? Squatchtonians? You'll get it. Keep going. We'll find one that works.
Adorned her chamber, offering solace and spiritual fortitude, striving to replicate the ambience of a womb's embrace, warm, dark, and serene. But the cruel hand of fate moved swiftly. No sooner had she retreated to her concealed chamber than the agonizing grip of contractions overcame her. She underwent the agonizing ordeal of labor, only to birth a daughter who never tasted the breath of life. The unfathomable depths of grief and sorrow gripped Catherine's heart. This stillborn daughter marked the culmination of her childbearing journey. As the first wife of Henry VIII, she had birthed multiple children, but all had died in early infancy, with only one lone surviving daughter. The weight of her inability to bestow upon her husband a male heir bore down heavily on her soul. This was her final opportunity, and it had now slipped from her grasp. King Henry became consumed with the idea that God was punishing him. The story's complexity started years before, with Catherine of Aragon marrying Henry's older brother Arthur when they were both just 15 years old. Tragically, Arthur fell seriously ill and died just 3 months into their marriage. Henry, in due course, took Catherine, his brother's widow, as his wife, and their union blossomed with many years of happiness. But the heartache of losing so many children and the persistent absence of a male heir to the throne left Henry with the haunting notion that God disapproved of his choice of spouse. Therefore, when the young and captivating Anne Boleyn assumed the role of Catherine's lady-in-waiting in the early 1520s,
that's what happens if you get too high, bro. You turn Sasquatchanese.
The king's mind was made up. Catherine had to go. As a country of devout Roman Catholics, divorce was not an option. Henry's only escape lay in the examination of a fateful question. Had Catherine's prior marriage to his brother Arthur been consummated? With her defiance and his obsession, Their lives spiraled into a
Boobies.
relentless battle of wills.
Everybody gets
Catherine's
a boosties.
courage became her
Boopy.
armor as she endured a long and emotionally painful ordeal, cross-examined in court as Henry tried to prove the invalidity of their marriage. The Queen was questioned in humiliating detail.
Hey, if you're just starting out on Heroes, man, you have an excellent show ahead of you for a little while. It'll take care of a couple of days, no problem. Find you some dude, get them come over Netflix and smash Heroes is great.
About her sexual activity with Arthur, which she denied to the bitter end. She could have surrendered, accepted her fate, and faded into obscurity. But a potent blend of piety and unyielding spirit propelled her to resist, even as the world shifted around her. In the heart-wrenching conclusion of events, Catherine's 23-year marriage to King Henry was finally annulled in 1533. Stripped of her royal standing, she faced exile from the court and the merciless separation from her only surviving child, Mary. This cruel twist of fate meant Catherine would...
If you haven't seen Farscape, give it a look. It's a pretty good one. And there's like some... Yeah.
Never see her beloved daughter again. Catherine never ceased in referring to herself as the rightful, true Queen of England and Henry's lawful wife by divine right. Until her death, she signed her name, Catherine the Queen, and in her last letter to Henry, she addressed him as, "My most dear lord, king and husband," ending with the line, "Mine eyes desire you above all things." It was this unwavering loyalty that garnered her the nickname Catherine la Fidèle, which translates to Catherine the Faithful. Yet, it doesn't require much imagination to draw a subtle link between this name and the cat and the fiddle. Furthermore, Catherine found herself cruelly diddled out of her rightful title and position. In the cryptic verses, the dish absconding with the spoon might symbolize Anne Boleyn's audacious run for power, a symbolic theft of the king and throne itself. As for the other animals in the rhyme, they could potentially serve as veiled references to the myriad of forgotten characters.
What is going on in my chat? I talked to my daughter for a second. Suddenly, I'm a dude who's a redhead dude, who's a Mexican dude, who's a native dude, who's a stoner sort of hillbilly dude. Pretty sure that's not the quote. Ain't it a dude pretending to be another dude, pretending to be another guy? I don't remember.
Of Henry VIII, their stories now fading into the mists of history. As the first wife of Henry VIII, Catherine held a special place in the hearts of devoted Catholics who saw her as the true Queen of England. She was deeply loved by her people for her unwavering faith and dedication. Interestingly, in the years that followed her annulment, many taverns with the name The Cat and Fiddle popped up. Some suggest that these taverns might have been a coded show of support for Catherine and her religion. However, it's important to note that this connection is based on indirect evidence and cannot conclusively prove that the taverns nor nursery rhyme, Hey Diddle Diddle, was created as a tribute to Catherine. However, one theory worthy of consideration is connected to those cat and fiddle public houses. In the past, these establishments often hosted a traditional pub game named Tip Cat, involving a short length of wood known as a cat. The cat is hit with a larger stick to send it flying into the air, at which point the player attempts to hit it a distance with the larger stick while it is still in the air. In one version, the batter tries to round the bases before the fielder retrieves the cat and throws it back to home base. Earlier versions of the game are based on guessing the distance that the cat is hit, scoring points according to the number that comes up on a four-sided cat, and running from base to base on a large circle while the cat is being retrieved. It is a very early pub game, dating to at least the 17th century, that many years later, through different evolutions, became cricket, rounders, and baseball. It's not uncommon for famous nursery rhymes to have their origins in traditional or musical games, making it a plausible notion that Hey Diddle Diddle might be rooted in such a practice. Diddle can mean to pass time aimlessly or unproductively, which would fit with game.
I can hear you.
Taverns to accompany games, singing, and...
Are you broken again? She's broken again.
merriment. In this interpretation, the line, "The little dog laughed to see such sport," takes on a dual significance. On one hand, it may signify the sheer enjoyment of witnessing a spirited game in progress. Alternatively, it could allude to the virtue of sportsmanship, emphasizing the importance of playing fairly and with good humor. Delving further, the mention of the moon in the rhyme might cleverly evoke the image of the expansive circular bases that players enthusiastically traverse during the game. Additionally,
did you fix it? No? Okay.
The reference to jumping over them may vividly capture a crucial aspect of the game, where players leapt over these bases, adding an element of agility and excitement to the sport. The dish and spoon running away could symbolize the players becoming engrossed in the game.
Oh my God, did I miss Talk Like a Pirate Day?
To enjoy their meal.
Man, that's like my 27th favorite day of the year.
It's a captivating possibility that adds a layer of depth to this age-old rhyme. Many outlandish origin theories have been put forward to explain the Hey Diddle Diddle nursery rhyme through the ages, including fantastical connections to ancient Greek phrases and the worship of Egyptian deities.
I don't know.
One intriguing theory from history involves England's Queen Elizabeth I and...
How about now? Now have you fixed it?
Have you fixed it?
What?
No. Now it's echoing.
Now it's echoing.
It shouldn't be.
It's the best I can do.
Queen Elizabeth
she can fiddle with it a little more.
The cat, because she liked to toy with her ministers. The little dog in our tale may refer to Robert Dudley, the Earl of Leicester, who Queen Elizabeth considered marrying. She even called him her little lapdog at times. As for the dish and the spoon, according to some sources, the court for carrying ceremonial dishes at important state dinners was sometimes nicknamed the dish, and the spoon to a lady in waiting who had the risky job of tasting the Queen's food to make sure it wasn't poisoned. Some speculate whether a secret love affair might have blossomed between the staff known as the dish and the spoon to inspire the line of the rhyme. However, the dish and the spoon may refer to two different characters of the royal court, for behind the grandeur and formality, a hidden romance was brewing. In the heart of Tudor England, where the palace walls concealed secrets darker than the night, a thrilling tale of forbidden love and royal betrayal unfolded.
I don't talk like a pirate unless I have rum handy.
Was set to embark on a grand hunting trip, but within the stone chambers of her court, a clandestine plot was underway. Lady Catherine Grey, with hair as fiery as her spirit, feigned toothache, for she harboured a secret engagement that could spell treason. Catherine, aged just 18, dared to defy the decree that bound her heart. To marry without the monarch's consent was to dance on the precipice of doom, yet she knew the Queen's blessing would never grace her union. For her betrothal to Edward Seymour, the first Earl of Hertford, threatened to rewrite the lines of succession to the throne. Under the cloak of Elizabeth's absence, Catherine embarked on a perilous journey to the Earl's estate. Edward's sister Jane stood as witness to their union, and a hushed ceremony sealed their fate. In the flickering candlelight,
and she's not done, Snark.
As they spent a stolen
she's got another
together.
Theory behind
But
this one that's even drier.
Catherine slipped back away to the court, her heart heavy with the weight of her treacherous secret.
We needs with booty.
Their love blossomed in the shadows.
So, Professor, well, what's another name for pirate treasure?
Fervent embraces, they defied
I think
fate
it's
itself.
booty.
But
booty.
whispers of Hertford's attention
That's what
towards
it
Catherine
is.
reached the ears of Sir William Cecil, the Secretary of State. Concerned that Hertford's affections would disrupt the royal order, he suggested an overseas journey, a command veiled in suggestion. The Duchess, mother to Hertford, lent her voice to this decree, hoping to secure a noble match for her son favoured by the Queen. With no choice but to obey, Hertford agreed to depart, leaving behind his love-stricken bride. Catherine's heart bore a heavy secret. She suspected she carried the fruit of their passion within her. Uncertain and torn, she grappled with the decision to reveal their forbidden union to the Queen. But a tragic turn of events diverted her thoughts. Her dear friend and now sister-in-law Jane fell gravely ill and was lost. Grief engulfed Catherine, casting a shadow over her heart.
Am I echoing?
Can you hear me now?
Good.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you?
Good. Yes.
All right, now shut the fuck up. Let's finish this.
Fine.
As the months passed, Catherine's pregnancy could no longer be concealed. She had no choice but to reveal her secret to the enraged queen. Elizabeth's fury raged like a tempest, her royal bloodline threatened by Catherine's transgression. Arrested and sent to the Tower of London, Catherine awaited her fate. Hertford, summoned back from Europe, also found himself imprisoned in the Tower upon his return. Even Hertford's mother distanced herself from her unruly child, pleading loyalty to the irate queen. Amid the gloom of imprisonment, Catherine gave birth to a healthy son, christened Edward, on the 21st of September, 1561. Although the queen's stern...
I don't know how healthy that kid is. He's got a really flat head. Like, really flat head. Did you see that kid's head? You could set him upside down all over.
No, he's got a hat on.
Oh.
And command demanded separation. Even the unyielding fortress of the Tower of London couldn't extinguish the flames of love that burned within Catherine and Hertford's hearts. The prison guards, moved by the palpable depth of their affection, chose to defy her orders. It was an act of compassion, for they witnessed the unbreakable bond that bound the couple together. 2 years later, a second son came into this world, as a testament to the enduring love that defied the shackles of royal wrath and imprisonment. Yet their love was doomed. As news of a second son reached the ears of Queen Elizabeth, her wrath knew no bounds. She ordered the couple's separation miles apart and levied a staggering fine of £15,000 on Hertford, equivalent to £3.5 million today. They would never meet again. Catherine, confined to her prison, died in 1567 at the tender age of 27. Her pleas for Hertford's release on her deathbed fell on deaf ears. It is said that she perished with a broken heart, leaving behind a love story that dared to defy the crown and ignited the pages of history. Could it be that the ill-fated romance of Lady Catherine Grey serves as the embodiment of the dish and spoon in our rhyme? This intriguing possibility further strengthens our theory that the origins of this enigmatic verse may indeed be intertwined with the court of Queen Elizabeth I. It's a poignant tale, yet the nursery rhyme's connection to it remains shrouded in obscurity, lacking concrete evidence. If we are to look for hard evidence beyond the familiar printed rendition we recognize today, a rare historical reference in a play by Thomas Preston dated back to 1569 may hold a clue. It reads, "They be at hand, sir, with stick and fiddle. They can play a new dance called Hey Diddle Diddle." Another possible reference is in Alexander Montgomery's book of poetry, The Cherry and the Sleigh, from 1597. "But since you think it an easy thing to mount above the moon, of your own fiddle take a spring, and dance when you have done." Both of these early printed versions undeniably suggest a dance, which possibly served as the genesis of the nursery rhyme. It's conceivable that the remaining lines of the modern rhyme we recognize today evolved to harmonize with the music that once accompanied this dance. However, it's essential to tread cautiously, as the resemblance between these texts and the rhyme could be purely coincidental, raising doubts about their true connection. One last theory is that the rhyme might have served as a simple inventory of essentials within a poor household: a cat to catch vermin, a dog for protection, a cow for milk, a dish and spoon for food, and a fiddle for musical entertainment. While each one of these origin theories holds merit, the enduring mystery surrounding this rhyme persists. Many sources conclude that it is just a playful, nonsensical wordplay with no deeper meaning. The answer remains elusive, leaving room for interpretation and speculation. But what do you think? Leave us a comment and share your thoughts.
So what do you think? Is it a star chart? Is it a planting schedule? Is it a method of remembering nefarious subjects at court? Or is it just a funny little rhyme that people like to say? Hey, diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon.
That's got to do with the stars, yeah.
It does sound kind of starry. That was the theory I read back in the day. But yeah, I don't see why it couldn't have multiple meanings. During the Romance period, people were just rife with the idea of innuendo.
Yeah. Well,
There
I mean,
was
yeah.
speech, so if you were going to say something about the king, you best do it in a very veiled fashion.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, we still have to speak like that. In
All right.
certain areas and realms of our life and our world, we do have to talk in code.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, depending on what subject matter you're talking about too, you know what I mean? Generally speaking.
All right. So the next selection up for grabs is the origins of religiosity and the fuzzy wuzzies. So for those of y'all who believe in the concept of a higher power, a greater God, a deity, Uncle Joe, if you'd rather worship him, however you want to handle that. But this is from North 02. One of my favorite documentary style YouTubers. He does truly amazing work. He's been doing it for 4 or 5 years, has a massive collection of like archaeological and paleontological things about like human ancestry and whatnot. It's
I don't think I've heard of him.
Oh, he's awesome. I think he's got
not
2
sure.
channels. I can't remember what the other one is. Like Norte. I think it's in Spanish. Norte.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. North 02 is this one.
Religion. An idea that has defined human culture for thousands of years. Religion has been used in all manners, from brutal conflicts to times of great prosperity. An idea about how the world works, why it works, and why we're here. Regardless if you are religious or not, it is undeniable of its importance to our species.
Back by popular freaking request, man. I'll give you a little bit of paleontology. I don't mind.
You know about cars? Yes, I'm a paleontologist. Oh,
I
it's
love
so
this.
dynamite in this bag too. I am a paleontologist. I'm a paleontologist. Paleontologists study really old stuff. Like crackers.
Because bad movies are funny.
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are.
Modern times, over 80% of people are religious. There are over 4,200 religions worldwide, and likely thousands more in prehistory. We have seen the formation of religions in real time, though they're often called cults. This video is not meant to advocate for atheism, but it will talk about the origins of religion and its importance to the human species.
Wait a second, did I hear that right? This is not to be a advocate for atheism, but it will talk about religion.
But proceeds to get,
This video is not meant to advocate for atheism, but it will talk about the origins of religion and its importance to the human species.
Yeah.
Is it the admitting that there was a species before there was a religion? Is that the problem? Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I could see the argument.
Oh, bro, Robin, if you like bad B movies, there's a movie on Amazon Prime called Deary Off the Wall, spelled Deery. Deer, as in
Deer, like deer, bruh.
Like a deer. Deary Off the Wall. Go check it out. There's this scene. There's this scene in that movie where homie has a turtle in a bucket. And he's just shaking it around, and they walk up and say, "Hey, can I get some directions?" He's like, "Don't worry about him. They love that."
Okay.
They don't have any caves to film in, so they went and got some of those cave blankets and put it up in the shed.
Oh my god.
It's great. It's so good. So bad.
There was a time before religion, when our ape ancestors did not have the capacity to think abstractly. But these men are long gone. We cannot study religion through 2-million-year-old fossils, and even labeling Stone Age finds as religious is controversial. Fortunately, we are not the only animal on Earth. Through our closest relatives, we may be able to get a glimpse into our own minds. Biologists working in the Republic of Guinea found evidence of what seemed to be a sacred...
And to be clear, I am a consummate American. I believe in freedom of religion. If you want to go worship a rock, the greatest deity, or a lake in South Nantucket, I don't give two fiddly fucks. Just do it right. Don't pussyfoot around about it. Go do it the way you're supposed to do it, and don't bitch at me about it. Because I'm not one of your chosen people, I don't think, unless you chose them and you chose me. And then I don't know why you chose me. Why would you choose me? What a weird religion you have.
Tree used by chimps, perhaps for some sort of ritual. Camera traps were set up on trees with unusual marks. The footage showed chimps behaving in strange ways. They placed certain shape or color stones in hollow trees. They also made gestures and movements which included throwing rocks at the trees. Biologists found rocks similar in size and color placed inside of the tree. In another study, 34 chimpanzee communities were sampled. 4 populations were found in West Africa where chimpanzees habitually bang and throw rocks against trees, or toss them into tree cavities, resulting in conspicuous stone accumulations at these sites. This represents
basketball.
Repeated observations of individual chimpanzees.
I didn't say that. That was not me, and I don't approve of such behavior.
Used for a purpose other than extractive foraging, at what appear to be targeted trees. Chimps would approach certain trees with a stone in their hand, or grabbing a stone from the base or from the inside of the tree's hollow cavities, and then proceed to throw it. The individuals observed in the camera trap footage were mainly adult males, but an adult female and a juvenile were also observed. Common to all accumulative stone throwing observations exhibited by adults was the pant hoot vocalization. The pant hoot is a characteristic feature of the ritualized agonistic displays of an adult male chimpanzee, which typically involves a bipedal stand, hand and feet drumming on the buttress roots of trees, and in some populations is preceded by a bizarre leaf clipping display. When the rock was thrown, this was often, but not always, accompanied by the climax phase of the pant hoot consisting of scream elements and drumming with the hands or feet on the tree.
This is all elements of attacking something that doesn't exist anymore. Once upon a midnight dreary, long, long ago, in the dawn of their evolution, something lived in hollow trees that killed them. And they learned to throw rocks in the hollow trees so that the things that killed them in the hollow trees wouldn't be able to get in there.
I mean,
right?
The hollow tree probably wasn't really a hollow tree, though.
Why not?
I mean, think about it. Why would they just be throwing rocks into the trees? Like, I mean, other than what we were just saying, like that, what would be in the tree that would be killing them?
Snakes, bees,
bees maybe,
wasps.
but killing them, like, what are they like? That's crazy.
They don't.
They all got a bee allergy.
They just show up and throw the rocks in the tree. They find a hollow tree and they beat it with a rock, and then they throw the rock.
They're trying to get their basketball skill down, dude.
Oh my God.
That's what that is.
This newly discovered stone tool use behavior and stone accumulation sites in chimpanzees is reminiscent of human cairns.
What? Did he really just say that?
Natural cavities in the
cairns.
Oh, I thought he said like human Karens, like talking about female. Like I was like, wait, what?
Cairns stacks.
My hair, gotcha.
Piles of rocks, and not that kind of rock. The other kind of rock.
In the landscape for catching food, as well as past and important places, and can hold a symbolic meaning for burials, ceremonial counting.
Hey, this is a true story. The way I got my wife to marry me, and this is an honest to God true story. Back when we were courting many, many years ago, we were sitting out in the middle of a Georgia night watching the stars, and I picked up a rock and I looked at her and I went, off in the ocean somewhere, there's an island full of these birds called blue-footed boobies.
Mm-hmm.
They mate for life. And when a blue-footed booby finds a female booby that it wants to mate with, it brings her a rock. And I handed her a rock. And I asked her, "Do you like my rock?" She said, "Yeah." And I reached out and put it on her foot. She looked at it. She kicked the rock off of her foot. A couple of hours later went by, and I told her the story again. In the middle of the island over here, there's an island full of birds called blue-footed boobies. And when you like someone, you give them a rock. And I reached down and set a rock on her foot. She stared at that rock for a few minutes. She looked at me. She said, "I'm not a blue-footed booby. I don't know what to do with the rock." I said, "Do you like my rock?" She said, "Yeah." And I reached down and picked it back up and then dropped it. And she stared at that rock for a few minutes. And she reached down, picked it up, set it on my foot. And I said, "I like your rock. We're married."
Oh, that's really cute.
Like, we got in the car, packed everything up. We went home. And it's so ridiculous, so stupid ridiculous, but I'm pretty sure that was the end of the negotiation period. She accepted it. That rock is probably still around here somewhere if I know her.
It better be. Oh my God.
And the establishment of shrines. It is hard to explain this behavior because, of course, we are not chimps. But creating such a structure that has no real purpose and is very odd. It does not provide protection, food, or seemingly any status in their community. To suggest a religious explanation would be quite a stretch. It seems to be more of a cultural or social expression. Regardless, this behavior is evidence of an understanding more complex than basic survival. Unusual behaviors have been observed in wild chimpanzees in West Africa in the face of grass fires. The chimps did not panic or flee. Instead, some made ritualistic displays that suggest they understand fire and do not fear it. This behavior has only been seen in the Fongoli chimpanzees. They live in a habitat that is mostly grassland, much different than the forest environment typical of most chimp populations. These populations are unique in many ways. They use caves, soak in pools of water, and hunt with tools. Fast-moving wildfires are common in their habitat towards the end of the long dry season. Anthropologist Dr. Jill Prutz witnessed the alpha male of a group perform a kind of ritualistic display towards the front of a raging wildfire. Dr. Prutz saw this behavior, including fire dancing, on 2 occasions in 2006, and said she was surprised at how well the chimps could predict the behavior of these fires. She said in one case that there was fire on 3 sides, and yet the chimps remained calm. She thought their calmness could represent a key stage in controlling fires, since it is necessary to overcome the fear before control becomes a possibility. The leader of the group, the alpha male, emitted a barking sound unlike the usual warning calls, and then danced in a similar way to the rain dances noted by primatologist Jane Goodall, in which the chimps swayed in a slow motion as thunderstorms approached. Male chimps elsewhere have been seen displaying in this way, in a slow motion dance to show their dominance. The fire dance was a similar, exaggerated dance, but directed towards the approaching blaze. Dr. Prutz is convinced the chimps can conceptualize fire, and it is known that captive apes can even control fire. She said that if chimpanzees can understand fire, the ape-like small-brained ancestors of humans who lived in similar habitats around 5 million years ago could have done the same. Perhaps we are seeing a key stage in human evolution in which we too understood fire. Our theories around human evolution involve primitive chimp-like apes adapting to a savanna environment. Our ancestors would have certainly come across wildfires and may have performed similar behaviors. Perhaps it was an evolutionary advantage to perform symbolic behavior, and more importantly, believing in the power of these strange rituals. It seems humans are hardwired to believe in something more, something we can't see or explain. This may be why religions have been so fundamental to the human species. On an unrelated note, another thing I found interesting is that the Fongoli chimpanzees are not afraid of humans in the same way most are. This is because the people in Senegal do not eat them and consider them to be close relatives. How cool is it that these people recognize our close relations with these animals? Something that many still don't believe around the world today. I think a lot of us Westerners and people who don't generally live around apes like this really have no concept of how similar we are to these animals. In the book, The Power of Faith, Mother Nature's Gift, the author J.D. Glass investigates the origins of religion and how it might have helped us through the chaotic world that nurtured our ancestors. In a video that I will link below, he discussed how chimpanzees are subservient to their alpha male. The other chimpanzees show their submission by kneeling in front of their leader, just as many religions do today. Kneeling is a universal sign among animals and humans of submission. The chimps look to their dominant male for protection and always trust his intuition. In the face of a thunderstorm, the subservient chimps cower in fear. However, the alpha male fears no evil.
The subservient chimps cower, but their leader responds to the threatening sounds of thunder and lightning by giving his own threat display back. Racing around, banging tree limbs, throwing rocks. "You can't intimidate me," he says. "I'm in charge here. Take that."
In the face of a storm, he begins a threat display, running about, smashing trees with rocks. To the other chimps, their leader's bravery reinforces to them that he is the protector, their leader. This behavior is similar to the aforementioned displays in the face of fire. It is easy to see that this behavior is the precursor to not only human hierarchies, but also to religion. To those other apes, the alpha seems to have connections with natural forces, just as religious figures claim to have a connection with the unseen. Some of the first known gods that humans created are elemental gods. Think of Zeus, the god of thunder, or Poseidon, the god of the sea. The first religions were likely just worshipping their leader or these powerful natural forces. It seems it is ingrained in humans to trust charismatic leaders, even if that means adopting really odd beliefs. Just look at the Manson family, the Branch Davidians, or the People's Temple. These cults were able to trick a lot of people into really bizarre beliefs and eventually led to a lot of tragedy. Are these cult leaders much different than the alpha chimp? Both of them convince their subordinates that they are divine and deserve the right to rule. As mentioned at the beginning of the video, religion seems to be...
Alright, so back during my less than halcyon days, I knew this junkie dude who, as far as I know, still lives over here across town, and he had a little Chihuahua, like Yorkshire Terrier mix. It's one of the ugliest little dogs you ever saw. It was so ugly, it was cute.
Yeah.
Anyway, he trained that dog to find wallets.
I was gonna say to pickpocket, because that's what you would do if you were a smart man.
Open wallets and get. So if
just
you want
get the money out.
Yeah, to get the money out and bring it back to him. Or
that's crazy.
It is a little bed. Yeah, like with a little bitty dog beds that had like a little mattress in it, and the dog would go and stick money under the mattress. So if you went to go take a shower, or you were going to go swim in the pool, or you passed out,
You better take your damn wallet.
You're dumb enough to set your wallet down for a second. The very second that wallet was not being observed, the dog would wait for you to look away. You'd look over, your money be straight out across the bed. You'd be missing $20.
Oh, that's crazy. He still got that dog?
That was years ago, but his new dog probably does the same shit. I'm not gonna lie.
That is crazy.
He probably trained that dog to do that shit. He swore he didn't, but I didn't believe it.
Though atheism is increasing, religion is still very prominent, and this may never change. This video is not supposed to advocate for atheism, but if you accept human evolution, you probably would also accept that there was a time before humans had invented any gods. A time when our ancestors were quadrupedal beasts who threw rocks at trees. God seems to be essential to our emotional well-being, and in our earliest days played a role in survival and perpetuation of our species. It may be as natural and necessary a human relationship, and as genetically preordained as is a mother's bond with her child. In times of hardship, we can look up to the supernatural for protection. a force that is always there and always loves us. This is basically the concept of Jesus. Even atheists cannot deny the importance of religion in our culture. Whether it be through placebo or a real deity, worshippers are put at ease by the thought of an all-knowing power looking over them. The study of religion and the human psyche is fascinating. It is a large part of what makes us human. Thanks for watching. Did you guys like this video? I tried to mix anthropology and philosophy together. Also, I'm sorry to any religious folk who may have been upset by this video. Of course, that was not my intention, but it was kind of inevitable. As always, make sure to subscribe.
Did you just drop a link to a soda can? So confused.
What?
So confused. I don't know. That's snark. I try not to interfere too much with what Snark's doing.
Now that was interesting.
From a driver in Columbus, Ohio.
Continue. Oh no. Hold on. Let me move.
Oh shit.
Right.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Oh, Snark and Sass is medicated. Wunderbar.
Damn, that was crazy. There's a bump on my face again.
Yeah.
I'm getting so frustrated.
You love heat. You love fire. The hotter, the better.
Oh no, I do. I'm a fire sign. My parents were fire signs. My sister's a fire sign. Most of the people I mess with are fire signs. My ex is a water sign. That's why we don't be fucking getting along.
Oh, really? What you reckon my sign might be?
You're a water.
What it is?
You're a water because my son and you remember you and my son have the same birthday.
Oh, swung on and missed. I just screwed that whole perpendicular up. Sorry, I was sitting here looking at the traffic thinking, what the hell is going on here? Absolute madness.
That traffic shit though.
This guy as he throttles again, this time tapping another scooter. He's almost home free when suddenly he smacks into yet another bus. But the craziness of this video isn't over yet. He runs around to shake off the pain and tries to bolt when the driver gets out. He hops on the scooter and drives straight into an open well only 10 feet away.
Fuck.
Don't drive
back, bro. That was fucking crazy.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Oh, wow.
That's I mean karma. That's what I was just talking about earlier. Karma. You should not have freaking yeah, I'm a Sagittarius. You should not have drove away from this, and that's Emma. This is gonna come back to bite me in the ass. You should not have shouldn't have drove away from the scene. Like, hello. Not once but twice.
You're saying that you get into an accident, you're going to pull over and exchange your insurance information?
The next time that happens, that's what I'm gonna do. The next time.
Yeah. Highway cameras rolled as traffic popped up.
Stop it.
A white SUV simply couldn't take it anymore. The driver threw their car in reverse, but what happened next had traffic authorities scratching their heads. We open on the white SUV backing out of traffic. They wiggle their way into the breakdown lane. At this point, it looks like they might whip around. Instead, the driver starts backing up the on-ramp. Our driver is fortunate nobody was coming down the on-ramp while they were backing up. But then things
except
get
for those 9
crazier
people.
When they finally reach the end of the on-ramp, they just keep going in reverse. They turn right and join traffic. They make it through another
They got them good backing up driving skills, like for real.
Got stuck in reverse while sitting in traffic.
Oh,
that
that's
explains
brilliant.
why they kept driving backwards once they reached the top. The only question is, why would they have put their car in reverse in the first place? While the Ohio DOT
maybe they
was
dropped the
impressed,
transmission.
they
The reverse
urged
was all they
people
had
not
at that
to
point.
try this crazy
But
stunt.
it's still
Your
checking
car
out
isn't
reverse
running
over yonder.
properly. Pull over immediately.
Wow.
I mean, they had shit they had to do.
Buenos Aires is the capital and largest city in Argentina. About 15 million people live within the metro area and rely heavily on public transportation. On August 16th of 2023,
I can't do that,
a double-length
Not right
bus
now.
was crawling through traffic when it experienced an electrical issue. It suddenly burst into flames, forcing everyone to evacuate. Police security cameras captured the harrowing experience from beginning to end. We see the bus move off camera.
That's a California drop
traffic
there.
suddenly stops behind it. We cut to another angle, showing the second car beginning to smoke. People spill onto the road as they evacuate the burning bus. From the looks of things,
Might
there
be in
had to
Florida
be at
too,
least
though.
100 people in there. Some scramble up the hill, while others run down the street. Meanwhile, traffic moves steadily in the other lanes. But that's all about to change. A flaming oil slick stretches across the highway as the bus goes up.
Oh,
Cars
dear.
change lanes to avoid the fire. Soon, their only choice through it. A flaming wall eventually blocks all traffic. The bus turns into a
I say,
giant
fuck it, gun it,
fireball,
we can make
and
it.
a thick black
Hopefully there's
cloud
nobody
fills
behind it.
most of the screen. Even parts of the hill get burnt away.
Right.
Firefighters arrive a few minutes later to put the fire out. According to reports, everyone made it off the bus and nobody got hurt during the fire.
That whole bank got hurt. What you talking about?
Some people don't.
For real.
Take this truck driver in Jinhua, China, who devised
Jinhua.
an interesting way to
Jinhua.
transport a bent water pipe. It was September 4th of 2020. From what we can tell, the pipe had a few imperfections. So the driver attached it to the back of his rig to kill two birds with one stone. He hoped pulling the 300-foot pipe along the road would straighten the metal. What could possibly go wrong? Here comes our idiot driver and his 300-foot pipe. On the bright side, he's going slow enough that everyone sees him coming. The light turns green, and the other drivers wait until the pipe passes. That thing looks like it's never gonna end. A few seconds later, we see a pedestrian wandering in the middle of the road. Not sure if he's following the pipe or out for a stroll. Either way, he gets swept off his feet when a truck goes through the intersection. Taking the pipe. It looks like they were almost done.
Oh,
Drivers
no.
took equal
Oh, my
responsibility.
God. He's lucky.
Oh shit.
Pedestrian was
No, I missed it. Oh shit.
equal responsibility.
Oh, he's so lucky. He about died.
Drivers took
He about died.
responsibility for any damage they caused. Thankfully, the pedestrian was unharmed.
No, they got harmed. Their elbows got fucked up and shit.
All lies.
Sandin Taufers is an interesting little town in northern Italy. It's home to about 5,000 people living in the Taufers Valley on the Austrian border. Even though it's an Italian town, 97% of the population speaks German. On April 24th of 2023, all those German-speaking Italians were stunned when a strange event occurred near the highway. What you're about to see gives new meaning to the term rock slide. Keep your eye on the top left corner of the screen. There's a boulder resting atop the hill that's about to shake loose. There's no tumbling or rolling. The boulder simply slides like a surfer on a big wave. Unfortunately, it's heading right toward a building and a busy highway. The boulder misses before skipping onto the highway. It stops in the middle of the road, nearly blocking the whole thing.
So
Just
God's playing
imagine the kind
shuffleboard.
of damage that rock could have done. According to reports, this incident occurred at the bottom of a ski resort that had just closed for the season. Experts believe grass growing on wet soil helped the rock surf down the hill.
Yeah,
The shape
I'd
of the
say.
boulder itself also kept it from rolling over.
Thank you, Snark.
A burst water pipe is one of the quickest ways to ruin your day. On July 5th of 2020, drivers in Jodhpur, India, learned how devastating.
I'm at this dude's house. I've been staying there for a couple of months. Hot water heater's got a leak. We can't figure out where it's at, but I've gotten on the phone, talked to some folks. They're coming to check it out. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, Monday. It's like a Friday afternoon. This house that we're in is one of the old Jeep box houses that they made back after World War II, and so it's got a concrete foundation. So there's no electrical under the house. There's no under the house, right? All the electrical goes through the ceiling, and so all the electrical wires come down to the floor from up.
Yeah.
So I'm asleep in this house when about 2:00 in the morning, guy who owns the house comes in screaming, "Holy shit, we got a flood. It's fucking flooded. It's flooding. You got to get there. You got to help me. Come on." So I jump up and I run in there and I look, and he's gotten everything up off the floor that might have been damaged by being on the floor. But he's in there pulling fuses out of the fuse box, and it's like, worried about it flooding a panel or something. And I stood there watching him. I'm like, what had happened is inside of a hot water heater, there is a glass vessel that holds the actual pressure in the water. Yeah. It's to keep the water from being in contact with the actual metal so it doesn't degrade. No sound.
Right.
You can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Right. Okay. Yeah, no, it's working. That's
can
on
you hear
your.
Me? You can't hear me?
I can hear you. All right. So.
Oh, okay.
Here's why this was hilarious. Since all of the electrical comes down from the roof, there was no danger of anything. It wasn't like it was the river flooding. It wasn't like it was just going to fill up the whole house. I reached in and turned one valve and it stopped flooding.
And turned it off.
Basically, I just turned off the hot water. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just didn't sink into his head that there's no crossfade, no wires down there. It would take a biblical flood to get up to your sockets in this room, man.
Yeah.
Skip off the floor, you'll be good. We'll get this out of here this afternoon. I've already got a hot water heater coming. It'll be fine. He's like, what? Don't sweat it, dude. It'll be fine. And I went back to bed, and he sat in there mad at me the whole time. And the next morning, as soon as the sun got up good enough to see, a truck pulled up in the front yard, unloaded a hot water heater. He was like, I don't understand. I was like, look, some people just don't want me to move back in. They'd rather buy us a hot water heater than have me move back in.
Oh my God.
No, I straight threatened my pops. I was like, look, you don't fix it, I'm moving back in.
I'm coming. That's the some shit my parents would do.
Twice the price.
Like for real.
Was moving steadily through the Ratanata roundabout. Nobody could tell the ground was rumbling beneath them until it was too late. The water pipe in question is not the circular structure in the middle. It's actually hidden under the road off to the left side. Don't worry.
Yeah, right over there where that dip is. Yeah.
Pipe bursts without warning, forcing a white SUV to veer right. They nearly take out a passing scooter. Debris covers the intersection. Soon, water bubbles up and floods the area. A local store owner nearby said there was a heavy sound like a blast. According to reports, the pipe burst due to heavy water pressure. It was too old and couldn't handle the high demand.
That's what she
Our
said.
next burst pipe occurred in Bodrum, Turkey, a resort town on the Aegean Sea. As
Hello,
the story
April. Welcome
goes,
in.
crews had dug up a portion of the road to make some fixes. Apparently, they dug a little too deep and punctured an underground water pipe. Our white car makes it over the construction zone. They're lucky because the ground is about to explode. A black SUV pulls up, but never makes it far. Water bubbles up, and soon the entire area is flooded. It gets worse.
Yeah, he ain't
by
even
the
bad
second
enough. He just
as
dropped it
murky
right into
water
reverse, like,
shoots
nope.
like a gun.
Like, yeah, we're not doing this today. Trip canceled.
We're going around, folks. We're taking the long way this time.
Shanghai is the 7th largest city in the world by population. It's home to about 24 million people living in one of the largest financial centers on Earth.
That
As you
place
can
needs
imagine,
beavers.
trade, transportation, and logistics are all major industries. On June 13th of 2021, a dump truck was rolling along when it got a little too close to the guard railings. CCTV cameras caught the moment its cargo covered the lanes below. Watch to the left of the green highway sign. You can see our transport truck coming around the bend and crashing into the railings. The cab stays up top, but the cargo falls onto passing
That's
cars.
manure.
Nobody expected to be covered in asphalt that day.
Oh, that's
Aftermath
worse.
footage
That's
shows the
asphalt.
damage from a
Oh,
tumble
that's so much worse.
were
Damn, bro.
and the spilled asphalt.
All right. So picture this. You're doing your commute into work to go to your job at the bank, and you get hit by 40 tons of asphalt traveling 55 miles an hour in the opposite direction. You call your covered in asphalt. Your car is totaled. You'll never get this thing clean. Your suit's screwed. You smell like burned oil, and you got to call your boss and be like, "I'm not gonna make it." Why? My dog ate my homework. I mean, do you explain to him that you had
I know, right?
asphalt
I'm like,
fall?
turn on the news. Just turn on the news.
Okay, no, that works. That's smart. That's brilliant.
I'm like, you see me? That's me. You see the helicopter? You see that car? That was mine. That's me. So bye. That's what I'm saying. So bye.
Be back when the burning stops.
Yeah.
And even
Straight
see
up.
where the cargo bed broke clean through the concrete barriers. According to
It's
reports,
M's Mad
4
World,
cars were
Ember's
damaged
Mad World.
during the accident. A few
What is it
people
most
had to be
recently?
treated for injuries, but every
Hold on. I did it. I did the thing. I meant to do the thing. I didn't do the thing, but I meant to. I had it all set up for being able to do the thing. Right? Like that. And then I come over here and I do this.
Oh, this is hilarious. So apparently I'm not signed into YouTube on my browser. So
Right.
I can't join the live chat unless I go pick up another phone and do it that way. Because I'm not trying to find a notebook with the passwords that are like, oh my God, I ain't doing that. It's not doing that today.
I think we've had
No.
this discussion a few times. It doesn't need to be in public.
everyone was okay in the end. Wenzhou, China is a major port and industrial city in Zhejiang province. Hundreds of ships come in and out via the East China Sea every day. On May 28th of 2012, a cruise liner called the No. 7 Mingju Pearl needed a tow into the bay. It was totally empty. No passengers, cargo, or crew other than what was needed to keep the ship on course. As you'll see, driving a cruise ship is a game of inches. Keep your eye on the red circle as the $44 million cruise liner passes under the bridge. It clips the side, and you can see where something falls on the back half. When the vessel emerges on the other side, it's clearly missing its funnels. The Pearl was being towed into port for its unveiling. The theory is that they were slightly taller than expected because the boat was empty. Under normal circumstances, all those passengers and cargo had enough weight to sink the ship a few inches. The funnels barely clipped the bridge, but it was enough to break them off. Thankfully, the bridge only suffered some minor damage.
That's still really bad mojo. That's not good for ships on its maiden voyage before its maiden voyage.
Olongapo is a large city in the northern Philippines. It's home to about 260,000 people who were a little light on beer in the summer of 2022. On June 27th, a semi-truck carrying hundreds of cases of beer came barreling down the national highway. According to reports, the highway has a reputation for bad accidents. There's a sharp turn at the bottom of a steep downhill. This truck driver never saw it coming. Traffic flows steadily when, all of a sudden, our beer truck comes screaming around the corner. It lifts onto its right wheels and loses its load on the highway. Those bikers are lucky the cab stayed in its lane. Hundreds of bottles shatter, covering the highway in beer. As the story goes, the driver was heading to a wholesale shop when he lost control. Police Corporal Mark Leasing said the heavy cargo didn't help on the downhill.
I'm not highlighting that.
Crews arrived later to tow the truck away and clean up the
My
mess.
wife might
The
do
road
it. I'm not highlighting that.
glass.
Go fuck yourself.
There was
I'm
nothing
not
they
doing
could
it.
do about the smell of spilled.
I didn't. I keep forget. I've been trying to change it for a week. I got one more day.
City in Zhejiang province, China. If you're driving through, you'll likely end up on the Changchun-Shenzhen Expressway. It's a 2,000.
Where do they come up with these names from? Changchun Shenzhen? I mean, I watch as much Firefly as the next guy. I'm relatively fluent in a little bit of Mandarin. I mean, I can cuss pretty well.
1,200-mile highway from Jilin in the northeast to Guangdong in the south. On April 8th of 2018, a white sedan was heading down the expressway outside of Huzhou City. They must not have been paying attention because they missed their exit. But instead of driving to the next one, they tried to backtrack. Get ready to meet the most inconsiderate driver on Earth. The white sedan panics after missing their exit. They stop in the middle of the road and try to cross into the breakdown lane. They pull in front of a truck that loses control and topples about 50 feet ahead. But the white sedan kept going instead of pulling over to see if the driver was okay. That's when another truck had to turn and slam on its brakes to avoid a T-bone collision. At this point, you'd think the driver would call it quits after causing 2 accidents. Nope.
Oh no.
They keep going up the ramp and
They're
drive
just gonna
away.
leave.
Meanwhile,
Bye.
fuel starts leaking from the second truck, which could easily cause a highway fire. According to reports, pulling over to see if the driver was okay. That's when another truck tracked. Get ready to meet the 2018. A white sedan was heading down the expressway outside of Huzhou City. They must not have been paying attention because they missed their exit. But instead of driving to the next one, they tried to
What's up, Joe
backtrack.
King?
Get
Good
ready
to see you,
to
bud.
meet the most
Welcome in.
inconsiderate driver on Earth. The white sedan panics after missing their exit. They stop in the middle of the road and try to cross into the breakdown lane. They pull in front of a truck that loses control and topples about 50 feet ahead. But the white sedan kept
that's what I thought
going
I saw.
instead of pulling over to see if the driver was okay. That's when another truck had to turn and slam on its brakes to avoid a T-bone collision. At this point, you'd think the driver would call it quits after causing 2 accidents.
Good Lord.
Nope. They keep going up the ramp and drive away. Meanwhile,
All right, so a little ways up the road here, we got this particular bridge that comes out of Milledgeville, goes straight across the river. The river is affluent that runs from a lake that's up there in Milledgeville. And so the water coming out of the lake is typically a few degrees warmer than the water would normally be, right? And so come middle of fall, when it finally drops off cooler and you start having cooler mornings, that place looks like you're crossing into the dark realm. It looks like you're going into the nether plane of mist. Like you're just riding along and there's just a solid pea soup wall of fog. You can see 1,000 yards here and over there. It looks like you could walk up and cut a block of fluff out of it.
Yeah.
And depending on which way the wind's blowing, if it's slow enough, it just moves along real slow and stays real thick. I was coming out of Milledgeville one day when a white car was parked in the middle of a 4-lane road, just posted up sitting there. And I jerked over in the other lane, dodged a motorcycle, and pulled over on the side of the road and walked all the way back to the car to find a little old lady with big, huge glasses, and one of the lenses had fallen out. And she was just and I leaned over and looked at the window. I said, "Ma'am, standing in the middle of the road, couldn't nobody see me. Ma'am, can I drive for a minute?" "Oh, yes, honey, please. Dear God, I am blind as a bat. I can't see nothing." Hop over right quick. Skirt. All right.
Oh my God.
And then I pulled that seat out of my ass that had went up my ass when I first saw that car in front of me and went, "Skate!" Jesus Christ. Well, when I first got out, walked over to her, I was kind of expecting to find some drunk dude. And I was about ready to pistol whip that something's right there in the street. Like, and then I walked up and it looked like, you ever seen Princess Bride?
I think so, yeah.
Remember the Miracle Worker?
I don't think so.
Billy Crystal played the Miracle Worker.
I don't think I've seen.
Anyway, Tracy Ullman played his wife, and I
do know who that is.
She dressed up as a little old lady. That's what this woman looked like. She looked at me, and one of her eyes was magnified this big around, and the other one looked like the mole man. I was just
Ma'am? This Oh my god.
Milledgeville. I'm in Georgia, and I'm not telling you what city I live in. But I guarantee you, if you figure it out and you look it up on a map, you will get the wrong one. Because this place
Yeah,
is...
he always says that, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure I could find it.
There's a river. There's a plaza. There's a fair. There's
Man, I got people in Georgia. Don't fuck
all
with me.
name the same name as my town. My town's not on the cold Google sphere.
And then if all else fails, I will literally just scour all the Waffle Houses until I find you. Or I'll walk in there and be like, hey,
good luck,
this
bitch.
the one Sasquatch come to. Don't lie.
Georgia.
I don't care. Dude, I ain't got literally nothing but time on my hands.
All right, we got 2 minutes left. Let's finish this here 2 minutes, and then we'll talk about it.
While fuel starts leaking from the second truck, which could easily cause a highway fire. According to reports, the cameras weren't good enough to get the driver's information. The first truck lost its entire load of fruit, but both drivers walked away uninjured.
And the monkeys made out like a bandit.
Yichun, China is a prefecture-level city in Jiangxi province. It's home to about 5.4 million people.
Right. Have fun storming the castle. That's right.
On August 17th,
I'm pretty sure it was Tracy Ullman in a costume.
Tire
I used to watch the Tracy Ullman show.
I'm so sorry.
Well,
I can't control what you do when I'm not around.
Things got scarier when they realized the tire was on fire. A flaming tire skips over the median on its way toward the
I
wall.
think this was a carrot.
It changes its course and begins rolling toward the gas station. Unfortunately, it settles right next to a pump. A bus driver hops down and sprints toward the tire with his fire.
Absolute hero.
We see the tire approach from another angle.
Hero.
Two gas station workers hustle over with
Now
their
there's
fire
not much you can do
extinguishers
about
as it settles.
Oh, wow. They
team up
actually
with the bus
had
driver
a fire
to
extinguisher
unload on the
handy. That's
flaming tire.
beautiful.
It might seem like
Let's give this
they're
man a
wasting
standing
it, but
ovation.
this situation
Absolute fucking hero.
Once the fire
Yes,
goes
sir.
out, one of the workers dumps a bucket of water on the tire for good measure. According to the truck driver, a bearing broke, causing the metal to scrape along the ground. He thinks the friction created sparks that ignited the oil used to lubricate the tire and axle. Zhejiang province is a coastal region in eastern China.
Okay, so the moral to this story is don't drive in China. You're good.
Call it the backbone of China, as it's a driving force behind the Chinese economy. It's also the birthplace of famous people like Jack Ma. Now, Jack didn't become the fourth richest man in China by making bad decisions. He let other people do that, like this flatbed driver.
I'm from outside of Milledgeville, is where I'm at. But the town is tiny.
All this guy had to do was move this transformer house from point A to point B. Apparently, he forgot to strap it down. Our flatbed pulls through the intersection and takes a normal-looking right turn. Then, his cargo starts sliding. The house falls off the bed, rolls over, and slams into a parked car. Meanwhile, someone's getting out of the car in front and watches the whole thing happen before their eyes. Zoomed in, you can see how close it came to hitting 4 other cars. Aftermath footage shows how much damage it actually caused. Thankfully, nobody got hurt during the accident. A crane arrived later on to put the cargo back on the bed. Hopefully, the driver remembered to strap it down this time. If you enjoyed this video and want to see another just like it, be sure to click the...
All right, children. That's been our show. All right. So I got a few things in the works. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, I'm producing a show for Mandatory Carry. It's probably going to suck because he can't do anything but talk at a camera. So we'll see how that goes. And then tomorrow at 8 p.m., I'm doing a show with Captain Curmudgeon called The Blast Radius. And just to give you a little T90 little taste of some of the stuff that goes on over there.
Tactical nuke incoming!
That kind of stuff, you know. Basically, He covers a historical point. I cover something either political, historical, current, relevant, or some type of buzzword or another. This week, it's going to be a video from Mr. Reagan, where he goes over the different people who were at January 6th and the different agencies specifically that was at January 6th. And History Debunked, where he goes over, get this, racism as a social construct and merely a buzzword for Marxism. I love that guy. If you didn't know it, Simon Webb, the creator of History Debunked, you'll find his accreditations in many of your history textbooks that you used back in high school and middle school. He wrote a vasty sum of American Western history. A lot of it, like a lot of it. He is credited in almost every history book. Not every history book, but most history books from the past 30 years. But yeah, I got a couple of things we're doing. That's what we're doing. You want to tell them something? You can tell them something. Here, tell them something.
I'm good. I'm good.
All right, she's good apparently. So we're going to hit this other button over here. We're going to be out of here. And I might try to find me a beer or something to drink. I can't get no liquor, but I don't know what else to do with it. Till then, we're going to do this one.
Sorry. Good news, though. We're going to have to move the party somewhere a little bit more private, but you're all invited. Lorenzo will give you the details. Yeah!
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, baby, you'll get sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed. Think you're something out of my nightmares, standing right there. But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, then will you get bored of killing me?
Silhouettes of you are like a taunt. Never really know just what you want. With you I don't ever feel calm. I can feel the sweat inside my palms. Play with me like cats and a string. You don't understand the pain it brings. You don't ever wanna give me wings. You don't ever wanna set me free. You know I'm addicted to you, and it's twisted, you've been gifted with the evil voodoo. Got me coming back for more, even when I've been screwed. Dolls full of pins, pierce my heart straight through. I got issues in my head, I like you in my bed, but you keep me on red. Oh, everything is like a test, I better not text or I'll come off desperate.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, baby, you'll get sick of being the monster out of my